All right, you finally installed OpenClaw. It's running on your server. You send it a message, it replies. Now what? But if you follow this video to the end, I promise you your OpenClaw will be so much more useful than the vast majority of people already using it. First thing you're going to want to do is get it to know who you are and who you want it to be and what role you want it to play in your life. My favorite way to do this is by having it run a deep dive interview with you with tons of follow-up questions, and you just answer as detailed as you possibly can. That way it's going to update its user.md, which is the file that it reads so that it knows who it's talking to. And it's also going to update its soul.md, which is the file that it reads so it knows who it is. So I put a prompt in the Google Doc in the description, which will run a whole deep dive interview with you. And for every other tip in the rest of this video, there's also a corresponding prompt or step-by-step guide in that doc. So once you finish your deep dive interview with your OpenClaw, you can decide whether or not you would want to export your ChatGPT chats or your Claude chats. It's easy. You just go into the settings on your ChatGPT or Claude and you can export all of your chats. Then you would probably have to delete any photos or any other file type that isn't text. And then you can feed that entire folder to your OpenClaw along with another prompt in the description, which will process all of that information from your past chats with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini and use that to fully personalize the setup for you and give you some initial use cases and some skills that you should start developing with your OpenClaw. So once you've done the deep dive interview and you've decided whether or not you want to actually export your chats from some other app, first thing you're going to want to ask is, based on what you know about me, what skills should we develop together? And the second good question would be, what specialized subagents should we make together? And you should go through an entire conversation with it about those two things and tell it to do everything. And I think you're going to like all the answers it's telling you to do, especially if you're on Opus 4.6, and you can just have it develop all those things for you. Now, a skill, all it is a markdown file, which is just writing, it's essentially just a prompt that's injected into the OpenClaw every time you're talking to it. And it is what allows it to have a step-by-step guide to do every single task that you want it to do and do it in a repeatable manner. And anytime it does that task, you definitely want to give it feedback as specifically as possible, what you like, what you don't like, examples of what you like, examples of what you don't like. So every time it does that task and you give it feedback, it's going to update that skill and it's going to get better every single time you do it. So now you fully personalize it to yourself and you've made a bunch of skills with it and you've come up with a bunch of good ideas for use cases because you asked it about what good use cases it has for you. Now there's a few third-party skills that I do recommend. When it comes to third-party skills, you have to be extremely careful. It was found that the #1 skill on cloudhub.com, which is a big skill marketplace for OpenClaw, the #1 skill had malware in it. So whenever you're getting a third-party skill, you want to read through the documentation to see if there is any malware. And if you can't verify it, then don't download it. And anyway, the best skills are the ones that you make with it yourself because you know exactly how you want to use it. And when you make skills specific for your use cases, they're better than any other third-party skill could ever be. These 4 skills here are the only third-party skills that I have, and they are well known by the community. And I'm not going to get deep into how they work technically, but Agent Browser, it allows it to browse the internet easier and possibly get past bot detection a little bit easier. Super Memory explains it in the name. QMD is another memory plugin, and what that does, it indexes all your memory files so that it's a lot easier for your OpenClaw to retrieve memory without reading every single word in every single memory. With QMD, you're going to want to tell your OpenClaw to set a cron job to refresh the QMD index once every day at 4 a.m. Basically skims through the memories and indexes them for easier retrieval. And QMD is extremely powerful for saving tokens because of the fact that it doesn't have to read every single word in every single memory document when it's retrieving a memory for you. The last one I recommend is Prompt Guard. Now, prompt injection is still a huge security risk with OpenClaw, and I couldn't tell you the technical details of how Prompt Guard works. All I know is that it's supposed to help against prompt injection, and it's very well known in the community. So aside from these 4 skills, I would not recommend you download any other ones unless you actually read the entire file base of them. Next, you're going to want to learn a little bit about how the system files work. It's helpful to know. Now you can have a conversation with your OpenClaw about this, but what it comes down to is that the soul is the personality and tone of the agent. User.md is what it knows about you. Memory is, of course, its long-term memory. Agents is its rules and guardrails. Tools are the tools it has at its disposal to manipulate apps and APIs and anything more technical like that. And the heartbeat is a document that tells it what it should check on proactively. So I do recommend having a conversation with your OpenClaw about what it has in each of these documents and it will probably come up with some good ideas for what it should add or take away based on what it already knows about you. So you should go and do that. All right, so now we've got it fully personalized to yourself. You've made a bunch of skills for yourself. You've learned a little bit about how it works. Now you're going to want to integrate some tools for it to become actually useful and become your actual AI employee. If you follow this video to the end, I promise you your OpenClaw will be so much more useful than the vast majority of people already using it. So first one I recommend, Grok Whisper. Grok Whisper has a free API token so that you can send it voice messages. So you just go to grok.com and make an account, generate an API key, send it to your OpenClaw and tell it, use this API key to set up the OpenAI Whisper native integration. And it will set up Whisper so that you can now send it voice messages completely for free. Next, you're going to want to get CRXNG. This allows it to use Google, DuckDuckGo, and a couple other search engines, I think. And this allows you to bypass having to use the Brave browser, and it is actually a lot better than the Brave browser as well. So for this, you would just tell it, look up CRXNG, and once it finds it, you say, install it so that you can use it for search. Next one, I recommend, you don't have to do this, but it is extremely useful to me. So you would set up all your Google Workspace integrations with read-only access to begin, and later on, if you do want, you can get write access as well. Write access would allow it to send emails, create events, delete events. You can discuss with it what scopes you want for the API, and it will help you set that up for it. And I'm also going to leave a prompt that will allow it to actually make a Google Cloud project to set this up, and it will actually guide you through the whole Google Workspace setup if you just paste this prompt into your OpenClaw. And that prompt is also in the document below. And then another essential one, I would say this is essential, is GitHub and Vercel. So both of these are free. You would make it its own Gmail account. Same thing for Google Workspace, actually. Use that same Gmail account that you made for it. You'd make a GitHub account on that Gmail and a Vercel account on that Gmail, and in Vercel, you would log in with the GitHub account that you made. And what this allows you to do is deploy apps and websites in minutes. Anytime you tell it to create some sort of app or interface for you or a website, just tell it to deploy to Vercel and send me the link, and it will do that automatically. And one more really good tool I recommend is Notion. So if you connect it to Notion, it can send documents to your Notion in a really nice formatting. And I even got it to create me a CRM in my Notion. So I also connected it to my calendar booking and my Fathom, which is an AI call recorder. So in my Notion, it has every single transcript of every call that I've had with all of my prospects. And I can also just ask it anything about any document in my Notion. It's very useful. And just like everything else in this video, there's going to be a prompt in the document below to help you get that all set up. Now, of course, security would be the first thing you should set up. But this video is not about security. I will drop a security video later on. But if you follow this video to the end, I promise you your OpenClaw will be so much more useful than the vast majority of people already using it. So now you've got all your tools connected, you've got skills, you've got it personalized. Then you should ask it about the heartbeat document and decide what things you want it to be checking proactively and messaging you about based on all the API access you gave it. For example, if you gave it read access to your email, maybe you want it to warn you when you get an important email, or you gave it access to your calendar, you want it to tell you when something got booked for you. Just have a chat with it about the heartbeat document, and I'm sure you'll come up with some good ideas. Now, if for some reason you're watching this video and you've already been talking to your OpenClaw for a long time, and you're not just someone who just freshly set up, I do have one prompt that a ton of people told me they found helpful, and that is my system audit prompt. And I talked about this in the 10 times smarter video that I put out around 5 days ago. You should go and watch that. There's a lot of good information in there, but this prompt will essentially help you do a sort of reset to make all your system files a lot less bloated with information you don't really need in there, and it will help you turn all that information into skills that you can use for later. So that prompt will also be in the document, but if you want more details about that, I highly recommend you watch my past video. Last thing, I would say you would want to ask it what sort of cron jobs should we set up. So it already knows what all your tools and about your business and stuff like that. So it's going to come up with some good ideas for you for things you want it to do at set times every day. Now, the classic examples in morning briefing, but you can do all sorts of different cool things with cron jobs. You could have it post a blog article to your website every day at 5 p.m. You could have it send you an analytics report every morning if you have it connected to your website analytics APIs. There's a million different ideas you can do for cron jobs. So I do recommend having a conversation with your OpenClaw about that. That's my entire post setup guide. And I hope you made it to this point in the video because I know your OpenClaw will be a lot more useful for you. Now, if you like my videos, I highly recommend you take a look at my school group. There's a ton of good information here. We have weekly calls. Everyone shows off what they've been building. We all learn from each other. And some of these guys are honestly elite. I've had calls with a lot of them and some great guys in here. I'm honestly mind blown at how fast my channel's been growing, and I'm extremely grateful for everybody who showed me all this support. And you can also come to my website, openclawconsultant.com. Come to the book, and there's a ton of good information in here. A lot of it I covered in this video, but there's a lot more than just that. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.